general population. He's got a book out called Rockstar Hitman. He's got a movie called Dwellers. He's got an Ellefson band CD called No Cover. I'm sure you've heard of Megadeth. Mr. Dave Ellefson, man.
What's going on, Marco?
How you doing? How you doing, man? This is such an honor for me. You have absolutely.
Thank you. We've been trying to connect for a while, so I appreciate your patience.
Am I gonna rush?
Come on, man. Up last year. Yeah. It's a new year. It's a new season. Things are kind of open up, so it's all good.
2020 has been batshit crazy and trying to get over some of that stuff. But let's jump right into it, man. Tell me about the book.
Okay, so Rockstar Hitman. I always keep a copy here since I seem to be talking about it a lot. My first fictional title, and it's actually a fictional autobiography, which was fun to write because I've written 2 autobiographies, obviously about me, and my story. So as I started to write this story, I didn't start it to be necessarily an autobiography, but it kind of went that way. Guy from the Midwest gets this call to go to Hollywood for the big time. That part is somewhat autobiographical for me, actually. But the cast of characters that he falls in with, that's fiction, of course. And then
is it based off of anything though? Just kind of like a spin-off of some people?
Well, it's funny. So obviously my career, Megadeth and all that, and then Drew Fortier, who I brought in to help with some beheadings and slashing and killings and all the fun stuff. He's got a good mind for that. Yeah, he was in Bang Tango for a couple of minutes, as well as he did their documentary. So he's been in and around it. He's a musician, a great songwriter actually, and so he's had his turn at bat. So we could, sort of riff off of some of the lunatics, type of personalities that we ran into in Hollywood and elsewhere. So yeah, it wasn't too far of a reach to find crazy people from the circus that we've grown up in, But the trajectory of the story is our main character Sledge, who his name is Toby, but he changed it to like a rock star name, Sledge. And then so he signs on with this band and of course signs a contract he didn't read. And in the fine print was, oh yeah, by the way, during the day you're going to be out doing some hitman work for the agency, So it brings in some Jason Bourne, James Bond, some of the the good stuff, So it was fun to write it though, because with fiction you get to go off. You can go off script anytime you want, and just kind of create cool little turns in the story. So it's been a lot of fun to write it. And the way we wrote it, from Sledge's point of view, so again, kind of a biography narrative. We also wrote it with the intention that there will be more. It's kind of a series of books. So that's exciting because we can end a sort of a story. But it's not the end of the bigger story, So the life carries on.
Yeah. Lord of the Rock Stars. So what got you into the film thing, man? Have you always had a fascination, or what's?
Well, funny thing is, Drew had brought this film idea called Dwellers. This was, a year and a half ago at least. He had brought it over to me and my team, and we thought, well, look, let's just put together, we got Ellefson Coffee, we've got EMP Label Group, which is essentially Ellefson Music Production. So we're kind of branding the Ellefson name around these things, the Ellefson Band, so the Ellefson Book Company. So now we have Ellefson Films. And, we thought, look, we should brand this around. It'll help Drew give a bigger look, obviously, if it's, we're kind of couching it in with my little industry over here. So to do that, and it's a great story, and we're going to roll it out next week at Mad Monster HorrorCon over in Charlotte, North Carolina. They're Saturday night, February 20th. So if anyone is in the neighborhood or wants to drive or fly or go to Charlotte for a weekend, I did the Mad Monster. They invited me to do it here in Phoenix. I think it was like September. Or I think it was September-ish, and it was great. It was fine. They had it totally dialed with social distancing and kind of a traffic pattern in the convention room and stuff, and it was Super cool. Yeah. So I figured, look, I said, listen, I have appeared at a lot of these as, a celebrity. And I realize it's, it's nice when you can bring something to the party. So I said, look, if we can bring the film, and so the organizers are premiering it for us. And now the film we've submitted it, and it's been accepted in like a dozen really cool film festivals. So we're going to be busy doing that here over the next
Rated
few
R or NC-17
weeks.
or
Well, honestly, I don't think it has a rating yet. And that's actually a good question. I mean, again, a lot of this I'm learning as we go. It's like when you make your first record, then your parents ask you all the questions. Like, I have no idea, and then and your friends, you start hobnobbing, and they're like, so the downloads and how many, they start asking these. You're like, I don't know. I guess I'll find that out. So. I know in this, yeah, once you get ready to actually release it, for a commercial release. Right now we're just doing the presentation, we're premiering it, we're doing the film festivals. And part of the reason you do the festivals is to get a distributor for it. So, once then it goes to market, then, by then you have to kind of
as far as the CD, are you using your music from Ellefson Band in the movie at all?
I'm not. And, because it's a found footage genre film, it doesn't really have a soundtrack. I was talking to Drew about that. I said, man, we should put some songs. And he goes, the kind of the point of the, think Blair Witch, if you will. So if the point of that is you don't suddenly like have a band playing in the background. It's like this found footage, right? But it is funny because Drew and I, along with Vin, who's a singer of Sponge, Dombrowski, and Mike Heller, who plays drums in Raven and Fear Factory. We actually wrote an album and recorded an album, lyrically, mostly a sort of a bed track to the book. So we're just kind of figuring out sort of when and where that kind of comes into it. Like I said, now that we're going to the film festivals and looking for the distribution and doing all those kind of things, to have this record done, kind of makes a cool companion piece to it. And we'll figure out what that's going to look like here in the weeks.
You're obviously the head honcho, man. Are you writing everything, or is it more collaboration with?
No, it's collaborative. I mean, I started the idea of obviously the book, and then brought Drew in to help me color it. Bloody red mostly is the color he brought in. The Dwellers film, that's all him. He wrote, directed, starred in it. I'm essentially the producer of it.
Nice.
The record was mostly Drew and Mike actually wrote them, and Vin. I came in and initially just played bass on a song. I was like, these are cool tunes. I like this. This is kind of Cheap Trick meets kind of a little Sponge, I guess, in there. You know what I mean? It's kind of more of a 90s radio rock kind of sound to it, which I like. I like to when I play on other people's stuff. I don't like to just go in and play metal and thrash metal.
I was going to say, man, like Marty Fried, it's very, very gun metal.
I'll do that with these guys back here. Megadeth's the best, so I'll do that over there. So when people call me to play on things, I actually enjoy when it's not metal, when it's something rock. Frank Bello and I did Altitudes and Attitude a couple years ago, and that was fun for us. A couple of thrasher dudes to play music that could, sit somewhere between Foo Fighters and the U2 or something, so it's nice when you get these outlets and you can, find a home for some other things that we write.
You do any vocal on any of this?
That one I didn't. Vin did all the vocal. I love, man, Sponge. I remember when Sponge came out, because Megadeth, we were doing a lot of Euthanasia, Cryptic Writings, Risk, those are the Megadeth records we were doing at that time. And I remember Sponge, when they were, in the mix, we were kind of competing for spots on the radio charts. And I always loved their sound. But that one, no. The next Ellefson stuff, yeah, that for sure I will be. And
Dave Mustaine doesn't mind that you're doing that shit. I remember I watched like Some Kind of Monster when fucking everybody was all over Jason Newsted because he wanted to do something else. Excuse me. So
Yeah,
I'm
I
still
know
getting
that.
out.
Well, here's kind of the thing. So look, for 20 years, obviously we were, locked like a fist, as we built Megadeth, and then in 2002, Dave stepped back from it and it essentially disbanded, and it sort of left all of us in a position where we had to go do other things,
That scared the
I
crap
mean,
out of me and everyone I know as well too.
yeah, I was 38 years old. I had a young family. I certainly had a lot of energy, a lot of creativity. And even financially, it's like, look, money goes quick, when you're not earning more of it, So, I knew, like, look, I can't just sit back and retire. I got to go do other things. So, I got busy with other things, and originally it wasn't music stuff. It was kind of more business things, kind of really just thinking of out of the band box of, some other things to do. So I ran artist relations for Petey for 7 years.
Okay. Yeah, I got
Um,
a few questions later on this.
yeah, and that was actually very cool. Then I went to college. I got my degree in
Really?
business during that time. So that was kind of a different season of my life. I've been in a band for 20 years. We obviously did well. So I just took that opportunity, to do other stuff. And then at the same time, band things started coming around me. I had a little group called F5. Played
Tornado
with
preference, I'm assuming.
yeah, exactly. Yeah.
I saw Twister, man.
It's either that or the keyboard button
Yeah.
on your PC, which is
Gotcha.
so we did that, and I played with Max Cavalera and Soulfly. So yeah, I got to musically kind of stretch out and do some very different things. And then 2010, when I came back to Megadeth, and I never saw that season as like the end of me and Megadeth. I just saw it as there was just some space, and
Yeah, I got
and
a few questions on that. I kind of want to touch on the coffee thing. You're like, I'm
sure.
in a horror flick, we're making an album, and I sell coffee. Like, it's like, all right, let's talk about it.
Yeah. Well, yeah, so Ellefson Coffee, excuse me, Ellefson Coffee, we started that 4 years ago, I guess, 4 or 5 years ago. And I drink coffee every day. So, a lot of these things are about branding and just kind of, bringing your name to a product and these things. And, initially it was just kind of someone else was sort of roasting it, and then we quickly outgrew that process. So then next thing you know, I've got an entire coffee company, and that's been a fun process. I don't go to Guatemala and pick the beans out of off a bush. And I don't do that much of it, but we it's our brand. We have a roaster here in town. We have a roaster over in London. We got a roaster down in Brazil. And then, we label it and put it out. So that's what we do.
I just heard like some dumb Alice in Chains parody. Yeah, we come to snuff the roaster. All right, man. Since we don't have too much time, I know you got a lot going on right now. I went around. I don't want to bogart you myself because I don't usually get starstruck, man. My aunt's Charo. I kind of grew up with this, but like you really, like you're the man. Like you really are. I've been a fan for the longest of times, man. So what I did was I went around. I asked some people questions. If they want to ask you anything, what is it?
Sure.
So I got a few of these here. Don't kill the middleman, but
fire away. Fire away.
Fire away. Fire away. All right. So let me see. Chris Buzea asks, what was your time like at Musicians Institute, and what did you take from it?
My only time at Musicians Institute was to go in to get the form to apply to the school. I never actually went. I ended up starting. I started Megadeth instead. I took a look at the school, and I thought, play thrash metal with Dave. I think I'm going to do the metal thing. So
here's a funny story, man. You lived off the Sycamore, right?
Mm-hmm.
Man, it was like 20 years ago. I was in a band called Treason, and I'm a guitarist too, but the other guitarist lived in that building. And I shit you not, man, like every day I would pick him up and we just sit there and just talk. He was playing a Van Halen song and the pot and all this shit. Now I'm talking to you, man. It's bizarre.
You got a bass behind you. You can do that too. And who knows?
Yeah, I know. But
running with the devil starts all kinds of great shit in life.
That's awesome, dude. That's just such a unique fucking story. All right, so cool. In no particular order, Goat Hill Massacre asks, if you were to start all over again, what steps would you take to become successful in today's market?
Jeez. I mean, I'm kind of already doing that because, um, I mean, even Megadeth. I mean, look, we went through our transitions. We start, you blow up the world, you go. Suddenly Seattle music showed up and radio and
Did that
MTV.
affect you guys at all? Sorry, but like that grungy thing, did it take
I
away
mean,
from?
I like the music. I have nothing against the music. I'm just talking from an industry, point of view. Because you can play music for personal enjoyment. Doesn't mean you're going to make a living at it. And when you're in an industry, it's just like sports. Just because you can throw a football doesn't mean you're going to be an NFL quarterback. You can even be good at college and you may not be an NFL quarterback. So there's always these benchmarks along the way that you're constantly tweaking the things that you do, how you play, how you look, your presentation, your stage show, the production of your records. It's not like it all just happens. There's every little thing is a is part of building a better machine, if you will. And even though you had success once, like look, Dystopia did well. We won a Grammy. It was top of the charts. That was what, almost 5 years ago. So
Shit,
we live in a different world today than we did then. You know what I mean? So even if we just rewrote Dystopia, again, there's new fans, there's there's new people have been born that have come that are now going to buy the next Megadeth record. And so there's a lot, and plus, who are you just as a writer and as an artist, and what do you have to say, about things that have happened? So I would say you try to control the things from within, which are, how you play, how you look, the, those, how you keep your band together, like those things do you try to control. Then there's things from without you have no say over. I mean, the pandemic is a perfect example. I mean, no one saw this coming. I mean, bang, everything changed for everybody. And look, if you write songs about the pandemic, they're, period pieces, but they're certainly not going to be timeless songs. So to write a song about the pandemic, you really have to dig deeper into something that goes beyond just, and then in 2020, the
Events,
virus, you know what I mean? It's like, and it's so obvious when you read it, you go, oh my God, okay, they're writing about the pandemic, and it's as much as it's a story we all share. Are we really going to want to read about that forever? It's not like it was a fun time. Let's write about the party.
What was it like adapting to? Because I mean, people don't buy albums anymore for the most part. So I mean, what was it like adapting to the new format? I mean, you sell out everywhere you go. You're freaking mega. As far as
Well,
monetizing.
fortunately, Megadeth, Capitol Records built us the very first band website ever back in 1994 when we launched Euthanasia. They built this,
First fan website.
yeah, Megadeth, Arizona. And they flew out here. We made the record here in Phoenix. We'd moved out here. We built a temporary studio. And I remember they flew out here and we sat down and have the meeting with the top, marketing people. And they were like, I think we want to investigate using this thing called the World Wide Web. And we're like, well, what exactly is it? And they're like, well, we don't really know yet. It's all kind of being developed. The
Just
Wild West, there's all these sort of buzzwords that were used about it, but they said we definitely feel it's going to be the next technology and we want to launch the record with it. And they built Robin Bechtel, who worked at Capitol, was kind of the chief of. There's some good stuff on the internet that you could look her name up, and she talks very openly about sort of the process of what they were doing inside of Capitol, how it, parlayed over to Megadeth and the launch of the record. So fortunately, that, and then we some fans registered Megadeth.com. Dave bought that from them, so we could have that as our home. And we did. And this was in the kind of mid to late '90s. And so in acquiring these things, we were moving into the digital age. And then of course Napster started blowing up, and that was a big thing. And
we all know how that turned out.
yeah, I mean,
You guys didn't do shit like that.
And it's like, fortunately that all got worked out as we knew it would. That was just a moment. But look, I buy everything on here. I have a on my iPhone, I do Apple Music. I don't do Spotify. I make money from Spotify by owning their stock because they sure don't pay us for our
There
music.
you go.
But I'm an Apple guy. I love Steve Jobs. He came in and corralled this sort of insurrection. People use that word because that's what it was back when Napster and the stuff was going on. They were just coming in, just stealing everything. It was plundering and assaulting our industry. And so fortunately, Jobs, he really put it together, with the iTunes store and with his new device, the iPod. And he figured it out, and we get paid from that, and we get paid fairly from that process. So that's why I've been a real advocate, and my loyalties lie to Apple because they pay us. And and here in America, we've got Sirius Radio, the radio, subscription radio is great. It pays bills. We're getting compensated fairly for the use of our work. So I mean, that part of it is a business, and it is that, and we got to take care of that, and we hire people to take care of that for us so we can sit around and write songs, and do what we do.
I've got a few part question.
Okay.
This one comes from me, actually. So
Okay.
you can kill the messenger, I guess.
Now you can shoot the messenger here. Yeah.
Hey, whatever. At any time, did it bother you that Dave obviously, was making such a fuss about getting kicked out of Metallica to the point to where it almost seemed like Megadeth came second and it was like a chip on his shoulder? Did it ever bother you?
I mean, it didn't bother me. I didn't quite understand it. It's like we'd sit in interviews and people would try to inflame him. I mean, they would literally intentionally try to get a rise out of Dave, so they'd just get him talking about it. And in my mind, and again, I wasn't in Metallica, so I didn't have that experience. But in my mind, it was like, hey, we've got an amazing band here, and regardless of what you wrote over there with Metallica, I think you're writing better stuff here, and I still feel that way.
Way better.
Even when I go back and I listen to No Life Till Leather, which became the Kill 'Em All album, Dave's music was always more progressive. It was more, I think, always dynamic. And I love Metallica. I'm a Metallica fan, and so to me, they're two very different bands. It's not, to me, the crossing of that was many years ago. And I when Metallica puts something new out, I always listen to it. I buy it.
Hey, I'm a Metallica.
One of my favorite Dave songs is "Jump in the Fire," which is actually it's probably one of the simpler songs Dave's ever written. I love the riff. I like to play guitar, and I can play that. It's not too difficult. So I actually like that song. If I just pick up a guitar and play a Metallica song, it's probably that one because I can play it.
I actually have a follow-up question to that.
Yeah, go ahead.
Where is that damn thing? Well, you kind of answered that one. As a matter of fact, here's the other part of it. You've been sober for quite some time, right?
Mm-hmm.
Which
40 years, yeah.
Yeah, that's over the top. Congratulations. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, look, that is a discipline too. I mean, that didn't just come to me out of nowhere. I mean, believe me, that was anyone who knows, who may be watching this, who's either just on the other side of that, or maybe have just made that turn, or have been in this road. There's disciplines. It's just like going to the gym and eating well. I mean, it doesn't, your health doesn't just happen. You have to, nurture that, so, but thank you though. I mean,
yeah, no, dude, seriously. I think I have one of your documentaries where you're like, it's been 2 months, no pot, no heroin, no alcohol.
Oh, you're right. God is right. We were doing the warm up.
I remember I got that somewhere around here, man.
You know what? You're right. I saw that recently. We were, Nick. When we started the Rest in Peace tour, Nick wanted his friend Juan to come out and film all this behind the scenes stuff, and it was actually a brilliant idea for Nick and from Nick, and he wanted to do this whole. I mean, Metallica kind of did a year and a half in the life of Metallica. That was sort of the thinking, before they even did that. We already kind of had all this footage, and we didn't hire film crews. This was just Juan, Nick's buddy Juan, riding with us on the bus and everywhere we went. And he would grab some really great moments. Yeah, I remember coming off stage and back in the dressing room and stuff while we were on tour with Judas Priest and that. And then we turned it into Capitol, and they just completely dismissed it. They just, after a while, whoever it was, just opened the closet and just gave it away, and it's now public. It
Like
sucks because it's priceless stuff. It's gold, man. It's great
I
stuff.
look up all that shit, like the Pantera home videos, the Metallica,
Hmm.
everybody's got something.
Well, what's funny about even when I watch it, I go, God, I was an asshole. I was just so full of piss and vinegar. I mean, again, I'd just come off heroin. I'd come off, coke and booze and pot, and you know what I mean. I mean, I was happy to be clean for sure, but that turn, you don't just go from down in the gutter to living on the hill overnight. I mean, it's a process. Yeah. So I look at it and I'm just like, God, man, I must have
To
been a
your hands. No, I'm
pain in
doing
the ass to
great right
begin
now.
with.
Hey, how was it dealing with Mr. Mustaine and all the other bullshit scenarios that you had to deal with while they or him was dealing with the drugs and the gorilla on his back while you were trying to keep it clean, man? How the hell did you do that?
Well, look, we're brothers in arms, and when people have addiction, and this myself included, I think because I've gone through it, you don't look people at people. You look at them as being sick, because it's an illness. It's not a willpower issue. Look, getting too high at a party and driving your car into the wall, like, yeah, that's stupid. Okay, don't do that, But when you actually have an addiction thing, I think there comes a place where we start to look upon people as being sick. They need help, and I went through that. And so, I mean, look, you could ask Dave the same thing about me. In fact, as I watch some of those videos you're talking about, and Dave will come in the room and kind of shut things down, I look at it and go, yeah, he probably needed to do that. We were getting a little freaking out there, you know what I mean? And
Saw this interview with Mustaine talking about like, he was my running buddy, man. I wanted to spike his coffee with crack, man. I miss
I mean, we were total running buddies, and I think the bigger miracle is that we survived all the turns, and look, we love each other like brothers, and we don't always agree on everything. And I remember he said that, he goes, "Hey, if we agree on everything, one of us is unnecessary," So it was kind of like the agree to disagree. We have different roles in the band, and over here in Team Ellison, we always say stay in your lane, and I think that was I had to learn that a little bit, like just stay in my lane, don't be Dave, let him be him. He does what he does, he sings, he writes songs, he plays guitar, I play bass, I write once in a while, and be settled in my role, and I think that's what happens in these sort of career bands is we grow up and we turn into different people. We want new life experiences, get married, have kids, grow families, whatever it is. Excuse me. And those are turns, because all of a sudden you're looking at your buddy going, you're not the same guy you were before, and that's why I said in Dave's book, I said, all those years of us getting loaded, if that didn't ruin our friendship, turning the corner into sobriety was a harrowing turn, and those first, I mean, I remember specifically a moment at Rumbo Recorders in Canoga Park when we were making Rest in Peace, and David just gotten clean. I'd been clean for a few weeks, and we're just trying to figure out like where do we meet up, because the old, hey, I'll hand you a bindle and run off in the bathroom, and you do your share and hand it off to me, under the table, and I'll do my share, like the old running buddy, getting high credo wasn't, that was off the table, so it was learning how to, okay, how do we do this sober thing for each other, for ourselves, and how do we sort of complement each other with that. And that, quite honestly, that's what the Rest in Peace tour was just learning how to grow up and start a new friendship.
How's his health, by the way? How's he doing? I know you had
He's good. Yep, he's doing all right. Yep, yep. He's,
cancer and
he's turned
stuff.
some harrowing corners, and he's a tough dude, man. He's a fighter.
Man, dude, like
There.
you guys are amazing. I don't want to keep floating your jammy here, but I mean seriously, your technicality, the whole thing. All right, duly noted.
Yeah.
All right, this comes from my buddy Justin Doucette, used to be in a band with me, probably the biggest Megadeth fan in the world. Of all bass guitars and amps you have played on and acquired through the years, which and what means the most to you?
They all have a place. Little, small, lightweight amps that are very popular right now have a place in a lot of music, cabarets, jazz clubs, for certain types of music. They're great. They're not right for me. Big amp, I guess. Yeah, I mean, exactly. They have a place. The big the Ampeg SVT, which is always the amp all my heroes used when I was growing up in the 70s. When I finally plugged in one, I was like, wow, this is weird. It doesn't sound good. In fact, I think the first time I actually used one in Megadeth was um, at Castle Donington in 1988 when we finished our tour over there. And it was an old one. It had a really high gain on the front end, which means it was very distorted, which is not my sound and does not work well in Megadeth. So it was a really troublesome amp for me on the biggest gig we ever played, and it was a backline rental situation. So because it was over in England, so I had a terrible experience with it, and I use Ampeg equipment all the time for various purposes. When I come into different things, and I've learned how to use it and when it's applicable. The go-to amp for me that I just plug in and just always delivers a sound that I like and my ears and my hands play to is the Harkey stuff. And that's when I started using that back in 1987, kind of tour, I think towards the end of the Peace Sells tour, and then the first album I recorded with it was So Far So Good, So What, and then Rust in Peace and Countdown to Extinction.
Oh, it's surreal to hear you saying this, man. Do you still have that bass you were playing that Van Halen tune when you met Dave Mustaine?
No, that's a good question. That was a BC Rich Mockingbird. Actually, I bought that from Ed Roman, who had Ed Roman's guitars in Las Vegas before he passed. But he had a company called East Coast Sound out of Danbury, Connecticut, and I bought it from him. It was a Longhorn BC Rich Koa. I think it was a Koa body with maple stripes on it, and that's what I took out to Hollywood. Then I met David, and he had a BC Rich. He had the Rich Bitch, which was the option of a 6 or a 10-string guitar. He played it 6-string, and so it was like the BC Rich revolution. And then our first drummer Gar, about a year later, we got him in the band, and he worked at BC Rich. He was the general manager of the place. Kerry King, when he played with us, he was a BC Rich guy. The guys,
that's right. Wow, that's crazy.
Yeah. So BC Rich, I know Nicky. He played the Warlock. They were. Lita Ford was playing him. Rick Derringer. I remember going with Gar down to meet Rick Derringer at Cherokee Studios. He was producing a band called Madam X, and who are actually on my record label on EMP. We put a record out for him, and so it's kind of funny how these people that stay in the game over all these years, we get to share stories of our journey.
That must be awesome, man. Seriously, we're almost wrapping up with these questions, man. I've got one. This one also comes from me.
Okay.
What's your favorite Megadeth album? And then following it up with what's your favorite song and why?
I don't have favorites, to be honest with you. And that goes with everything. I don't have a favorite pudding. I don't have a favorite coffee. I don't have a favorite car. To me, life is about enjoying all of them, and I have my preferences on different days. I think pound for pound, the Countdown to Extinction record probably has my favorite collection of songs. And part of that could just be from my own personal experience of how we put it together. An album I don't listen to a lot and have started to listen to a lot more in recent years is Euthanasia. And I'm floored at how good it is, and how good we played. And that's because I knew the songs were great. I always knew that. We spent a lot of time. We really were working well together as a band, crafting songs. But when I say how good it is, meaning how good we played together, because we cut those tracks with me, Dave, Marty, and Nick as one take, and then we'd move on to the next song. So that what you hear there, that's us in the room playing together. Yep. And anyone who's made records knows that that's not normally how the process is. It's yeah, and the overdubbing process just takes. Max Norman, I did a podcast with him last year, and he said it best. He goes, music is about a conversation between the musicians, and even a conversation maybe between the musician and the listener. But certainly as you're creating it, it's a conversation. And he talked about that, like when you're in the room together, because he engineered those first 2 Ozzy records, and we were talking about that, about just how when you're in the room, there's a conversation and you play off of each other, just like we are right now. When one of us is talking, the other listens. If there's an excitement, you jump in. Oh my God, hey, you know what I mean? Like that's the conversation. It's push and pull. It's that. And it's just you talked, and then I come in and you're recording me talking, and then you piece that together. That's a very different sounding interview than to the two of us doing this together. And music's no different, you know what I mean? So to record all these parts separate, as much as you can make it perfect, you know, we don't always want perfect. And I heard a great story of the guy. I think he was from Sun Records. He was tasked by the label. Went to Elvis. They wanted to put out an Elvis live. Either it was a live album or maybe it was a live radio broadcast. And Elvis reportedly said he got nervous. He goes, "Look, I don't sing great every night. I make mistakes. I'm flat. I'm sharp. Whatever. On and off the mic. You know, there's just stuff. You know." And he said to him, he said, "We don't want the perfect recording. We want the perfect imperfect recording."
Right. That's like
You know.
the Beatles would twist and shout, man. John Lennon's voice was haggard
Yeah.
by the end of that. You can hear it, and it sounds that cool when it comes through like that.
Exactly. And that's when we like that. It's like we want human emotion, you know, and just that sometimes we want ragged humanness, you know, that's part of the charm.
Well, dude, I'm gonna say I freaking love you.
Thank you, dude.
Like, you are the man. I can't thank you enough for this.
You're
So
welcome.
look, man, I speak for a lot of people. We love Megadeth. We love you. We love the whole scene. And speaking for myself, I owe you my kidney for this, man. You are the absolute.
Keep it and hand it off to the next guy. Thank you. You're all good, man. We're all good.
So once again, I want everybody to remember this shit. Rockstar Hitman.
Yep.
The film Dwellers and Ellefson band CD, no cover. Check it out, man.
Yep.
All right.
Thank you, man.
I want to give
Thanks,
you
Margo.
over here. I love
Hey,
you,
buddy.
All right. Talk to you later, man.
All right.